Alright, this will be the second and hopefully final part to my installation video for an Escort 9500 Ci on a C6 convertible. Okay, next we need to route the wires through the trunk. To do this we need to remove the inner liner of the back of the trunk. To do that we use a flathead screwdriver and slowly kind of wiggle these plastic stoppers. I'm not sure what the technical word for them is, but you kind of just wiggle them slowly out. Be careful, you can only do this a certain number of times before you need to buy new stoppers, so just kind of go easy on them. The next two things you need to remove, there's the hook that simply screws off that holds the right side of the cargo net in the trunk, and then there's another one of those plastic pieces below it. So four things total, and the right side of the trunk lining should come out. The last thing you have to remember is as you're pulling that right side of the lining out, that trunk light is going to be on and plugged in, and you're going to have to reach back behind there and unplug that light. So a really simple latch, you pinch it, you pull it off, and the light's free. So once you have that out of the way, kind of pull it off to the side, and then you can route the wires behind the carpeting, and you want to follow the right side of the inside of the fender all the way up the right side of the trunk. There's going to be like a little pass-through area where you can slide the wires on through. At this point, you can close the trunk or put the carpeting back in, put all the punchers back in, secure the trunk lining back down, plug the light back in, don't forget that. Then you can close your trunk. Okay, next you're going to need to open up the convertible top hatch. Mine has a manual convertible top. So after I open the hatch, I fold out the convertible top, I lift up the back side, and I use, in this case, a paint stick just to kind of set in there to keep the convertible top up out of the way so that I can see down into that area. Okay, next we need to get some carpet out of the way so we can pull some wires on through to the front of the trunk and run it under this carpet. It's real easy to do. One screw post here, just unscrew that, then you can pull the carpet back. And all along the way through the trunk here, you will have seen uh, a factory wiring harness running through there with some factory installed places where the wires are ran and held down. Whenever possible, I try to either zip tie to these or follow the channels and add my wires to them. It just makes the install cleaner uh, and make sure your wires aren't getting in the way of moving parts that you're not fully aware of. After you have the carpet pulled back, you pull the wires through to the front of the trunk. Then you need to run them. You can look down in there, look at the second picture. You need to follow your wires around the spring. Make sure that in no way your wires are going to interfere with the spring or vice versa. We don't want any issues there. Follow the stock wires that you see in there on down in here. Um, Use zip ties where you need to keep your wires tucked up close to them. Okay, before we go any farther with these two wires, we're going to take a side note and cover the speaker, because we're going to take the speaker's wire and join it to our existing two wires coming from the trunk as we move forward in the car. Speaker placement, again, this is a big personal preference thing. There's a lot of volume considerations to deal with and all that good stuff. When you're hot testing the unit, something I forgot to cover, so I'll go ahead and talk about it really quick. Before you do any installation, the first thing you need to do is find your switchable power source in the car. And we'll talk about what I used here in a minute. But you hook the head unit up to your switchable power source, just like it will be wired in when you're done. Plug in all of the different pieces of equipment into the head unit, and then power it up. And what you're doing here is you're testing to make sure that all your components work, you're not getting any errors, and before you install anything, you want to know that everything works. Because what happens is if you have a bad piece of hardware and you call Escort support line and they determine, yeah, it sounds like your hardware's bad, we'll go ahead and take it all out and send it back to us. And you're like, what? But the whole thing's installed and this one piece is bad. Oh, sorry, it sucks. They want the whole thing back. So you basically have to uninstall everything, send it back, and start all over. So good practice is to do a hot test before installation. And this is the perfect time to play with your speaker placement. Try it up under the driver's side console. Try it in the passenger side console. I tried it in a bunch of different places. Under the seat. Doesn't really work too well because your seat has to slide. What I liked was to actually hide the speaker inside of that waterfall, I think is what they call it. It's in a convertible. It's the color matched portion that comes down behind, in between the two seats. There's a little cubby hole you can go in there, and basically, without attaching it to anything at all, there's enough force that you can just push it in there, and it kind of sticks in place. Is inside the area where the locking mechanism sits for the convertible compartment door. Uh, when I put it in there, it gets a really cool sort of echo effect sometimes in the car. The voice, comes from somewhere behind us, and it just has a really cool effect. And people that have ridden in my car have thought it was really neat how it ended up. Um, Really, volume. I have the volume turned all the way up on it, and when the volume's turned all the way up and it's in the cubby hole, I think the volume actually works out just about right. Um, Obviously, if you have music going, if you have loud pipes, you might need to put it in a much more visible place. I have loud pipes, and I don't really have too much trouble with it here. But like I said, doing your hot test in the very beginning is the time to test for speaker placement. So we're going to cover where I installed it, and showing in this picture is where I did. So you basically squeeze the little speaker in there, and then you run the wire. You'll see a little crack in the carpet. Just basically, you can squeeze the wire in the little crack and run it along, following my arrows. You'll run it up under the plastic molding behind the seat, going down the back, and then finally along the kick plates. At this point, once you reach the plastic, when you're about to go down the back, that's when you're going to want to join it up to your other two wires coming from the trunk. And then, of course, use zip ties to keep them all together, or wire looms, or however you prefer to join your wires together. Run them along the kick plates up to the front. The target location for all this will be the big circuit board area up under the console on the passenger side. All right, let's cover the display. Start off by opening your visors all the way out and then removing the clips that hold the visor in place. You don't have to actually remove the visors, but we do need to get the clips out of the way so that you can have some flex in the plastic or leather cover over that A-frame, or that A-pillar. Once you've got both of those removed, I think it's a little, it might be another T15 Torx screw on either one. That will allow you to pull that casing away just enough to go ahead and get your wire for the display run through that A-pillar. And you can follow my arrows here to see that it goes to the right, then it goes up inside that case, and then I run it along the A-pillar following the red arrows. So yes, following the red arrows, you're going to go all the way to the right side and then down the A-pillar, down through the side plastic moldings, and once again, we need that to end up under the passenger side console. Now for the control panel. Just like everything else, the placement is up to you. It's your personal preference. This placement was my personal preference, so that's what we're going to cover here. You start by running the wire down behind this little dash plate, back up under the console, and then you're going to go through the center console and out once again, ending up in the fuse box or fuse area in the passenger side up under that console. Careful use of a hanger or some kind of snake device can help you get through there. It's definitely difficult to do without something like that. And then to attach the control panel to the car, I actually just used the adhesive backing that came on the control panel, and so far it's done just fine.